All right, so today's lecture is on project selection and portfolio management. This is the third part of the series of lectures on project management. In this lecture, our focus would be to look at quite a number of things, try to explain how projects can be selected or projects can be screened for the purpose of selection. And we'll use different kinds of models to do that. The first part, we'll look at the different criteria, the models we use to screen or select projects, the criteria it should meet. The second part, we'll try to understand how we can employ different kinds of screening or selection models to select projects. And then we'll also look at some financial models that can help us in terms of risk, technical feasibility in choosing different kinds of projects. We'll also try to identify the elements in the project portfolio selection process. And we're saying that this is important because mostly organizations don't concentrate on just one project. They may have a mixture of projects, and that is what we refer to as a project portfolio. So there's a process involved. We'll try to look at the elements when we are selecting the project portfolio. It is important because, look, there may be existing projects in an organization, and a new project you embark on can come and derail all the projects in the organization. So it is important we consider the different kinds of projects we can combine into a project portfolio. So we start off by looking at the first part of the lecture, which is project selection. And we are saying that this part is foundational when we are talking about project selection, because it is the part that will help us in screening the project for the purposes of selection. So screening models are very systematic frameworks that can guide us to pick a pool of a project from a pool of other projects. And we're saying that the screening models can either be numeric or non-numeric. Sometimes there can be a combination of numeric and non-numeric. In that case, we will have alpha numeric, where the use of non-numeric and numeric are combined. And we're saying that whether it is numeric, non-numeric, or a combination of both, they should meet a particular criteria. The model should be very realistic. It should have that analytical capability to assess the possibility of the project being successful and being part of a combination of projects that the organization is already running or implementing. It should also be very flexible. It should be amenable to change. It should be very easy to use. It should be cost effective, such that even if consultants are going to help us do this, the cost implications should not be too high. If we are going to train in-house staff to support us in the process, the training cost should not also be too high for us to embark on. We, as an organization, would have different kinds of projects. So if we are using a particular model, the model should make it possible for us to compare that project with other projects within the organization and maybe with other organizations in the same industry, yes, or field, yes. So cost effectiveness is very important, as well as the issue of comparability. Now, I want us to look at screening and selection issues. This particular list of factors we are going to look at when evaluating project alternatives, there are many, and this list is not exhaustive, but we'll just look at some of them. The list provides only a partial list of various elements that a company must address. The first thing a company will consider when embarking on a project is the issue of risk. You may be successful, but you engage or you take up a particular project, and the project can, because of the technical feasibility of the project, too much focus will have to be put on the project in terms of financial, other technical expertise, and it can affect other aspects of the project. Apart from that, risk may also come in terms of legal issues, legal exposure. Yeah, you can be sued because of a project you have embarked on, and it can delay a lot of things you have been doing in the organization. Apart from that, maybe the area you are also venturing into regarding this project is maybe legally protected. Let's look at a project in terms of a galamsey. You go into a project like that, there's a legal exposure. maybe you are relying on the issue of incumbency to be able to carry on the project. But when there are changes in the political climate, it's likely to risk should be considered. Apart from that, commercial viability, very important. Commercial viability in terms of the ability to sponsor the project, mobilize for the project, and the ability of the project having that market potential. Whatever the outcome of the project is going to be, the product, it should be acceptable in the market. The return on the investment. In costing, we have what is called sunk cost. There are some expenditure or cost you will incur, and you may never recover from them. There are some projects you can embark on, and it can lead the organization or the firm into out-of-pocket costs that you didn't plan for, you expend, and you will not be able to recover from that. Then also the issue of payback period. We will look at this in detail later on. Payback period basically refers to it's a financial model where if you are investing in a project, the number of years it is going to take you to recover or recoup whatever you are investing. Yes, recoup your investment. Usually we say that the lower the payback period, the better the investment. But sometimes depending, I usually will consider personally, if I'm going to do personal investment or embark on a project and I'm going to take a loan, I always take the payback period into consideration. How long is it going to take me to pay? And sometimes the banks can be very realistic and tell you that the longer it takes you to pay, the more you are going to be expending in terms of what? In terms of interest. Similarly, when we are looking at project, we'll consider some of these things. So commercially, there are quite a number of factors. Apart from that, there are internal factors which are critical and pertinent to the operations of the organization that we may have to consider. Do we have to employ new people because of this project? Do we have to train them? If we are going to train them, maybe the training, we may not be able to conduct the training in-house. Maybe it will be outsourced. The cost of outsourcing may even be more expensive than if we were to recruit somebody to stay in the organization for the purpose of the project and even beyond the project expiry. Yes, also the issue of change in workforce size or composition. We have to consider the fact that sometimes, look, an organization may have a workforce, say 10, and they embark on a project, and some critical staff may have to be put on the project. The composition in terms of the staff who were already on existing projects, it will change. If we don't have that technical expertise or capacity to be able to simultaneously handle what we were already handling and what is coming on board, there's likely to be a critical or dire need for staff. Apart from that, changes in the fiscal environment. Yeah, depending on the nature of the project, you may have to expand some aspect, maybe where in terms of warehousing, office space, and many other things. So internal operations, very critical. There are other. Yes. A typical example, just a couple of days ago, I was hinting about a project that the School of Business could take. But the requirement is that we should have a computer lab, and we don't have a computer lab. So we are now thinking, how are we going to adjust and possibly have a computer lab? We have identified a place for a computer lab. Many of you would have seen it, computer lab here, labeled. But when you enter, there are no computers. So there will be the need for additional investment, sometimes for the space and equipment. Apart from that, the need to have the personnel, the technical personnel, to be able to handle that particular facility for the purpose of the project. There are also projects that may involve high-level trade secrets. And because the project involves a high-level trade secret, the organization or firm may have to go an extra mile to try and see how they can protect these trade secrets. It will push the organization venturing into terrains it has not ventured into before. Maybe they may have to protect some kind of a patent or a copyright because of that particular project. This also ties into the legal exposure we're looking at. So assuming we don't have a protection in terms of patent or copyright, and we embark on this project, halfway the project, other organizations replicate whatever we're going to do. Then the return on the investment on the project, yeah, would be affected. The factors are not exhaustive. Many other factors can influence that, yes. 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 Yeah. So let's also look at it this way. Also in the context of personnel. This happens a lot in banks. And maybe also in the telco sector. Employees are usually poached by them. Yes. And the organization may have invested so much in training this particular staff. And this particular staff may have a lot of knowledge, yeah, not undocumented. Yeah, a lot of, and when the person is poached, the person will go away with a lot of trade secret. The person may have signed a number of agreements not to disclose certain things, but his or her approach in carrying out activities or operations in the next project, sometimes the way the mind works, you cannot. I read about something about how the mind works. That when you force the mind, you cannot force the mind not to think about something. I don't know how you agree with that. You cannot. So inherently, you may say that, well, you have signed a pact with your previous organization not to do A, B, or C, but you also don't want to fail on the new project. So the knowledge and expertise you have gathered definitely will translate or transfer into the new project. Yes. Now, how can we screen projects, different kinds of projects? Yeah, for us to be able to successfully screen a project, we need to balance three critical elements. We need to be able to balance three critical elements: the timeliness of the project, the screening model, the usefulness, and the cost effectiveness. And it ties into some of the approaches we looked at in the first slide. Okay. So a project screening model that generates useful information for project choices in a timely manner, useful fashion, at an acceptable cost. Three critical elements: timeliness, usefulness, and then cost effectiveness. So I want us to look at different ways we can screen projects. The first one is a checklist model we'll look at. Then we'll also look at the simplified scoring model, then the profile model, so an analytical hierarchy process model. For the checklist model, very simple and straightforward evaluation tool. It's one of the simplest and widely used project screening models. How does it work? All the stakeholders in the organization would agree on the criteria which they would use to screen projects. And then this checklist will be provided to team members to just check. Has a project got A, B, or C? As long as we have all agreed, it's just a matter of ticking, people will say ticking the boxes to see whether the right things are there. So it requires some kind of an agreement criteria. All stakeholders must agree to that. And the assumption is also that all the criteria, different criteria we are going to agree on, are important. Yes, they are important. So we cannot say that technical feasibility is more important than financial feasibility. All of them will be considered as important. One other critical thing is that it must be measurable. The approach, the checklist model we use should be measurable, should be easy to be measured. Now, what do you think would be some of the advantages of using the checklist model in screening projects? I would say one, it is simple. Simple to understand. We all agree. If you want to assess how School of Business is running their programs, students can just agree and say that, look, we need to check attendance. One, we need to agree on internet connectivity. We need to check the course content. Yeah, so with that, you just pick any lecture or any course program and you check lecturers, how are they at? And then you take. Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah, it can also be used to guide project implementation because it is a criteria all stakeholders have what? Agreed on. Any disadvantages with the checklist model? If we say it is simple and easy to understand, it also oversimplifies. Yeah, it oversimplifies. It could also be rigid. And people will say, well, we all agree that this is the approach we are going to use to screen project. So we cannot change it. That's what we agreed. It can be rigid, yes. Okay. Okay. Eh? That one you okay. Mm, okay. So now let me ask a bit controversial question. It simplifies the screening process because we have all agreed. But in reality, we know that there are some items, that there will be some items on the checklist which are more important than others. How do we handle that? Don't you think that would be a drawback of the checklist model? Yes, so let's see. What will you consider to be the most critical part of a project selection or screening? We have looked at the issue of risk briefly. We have looked at technical feasibility. We have looked at financial, but there may be at least one or two which can be considered. Maybe the rest we can manage with it a little bit. And maybe in the end, we'll say, well, project overrun or run away. But this particular one, if it is not there, the project cannot even commence. Finance. But we are now going to assign the same importance, yes, to order. How do you handle that in a project? Maybe we have all agreed on the criteria, but going forward, maybe an organization can come up with the possibility of revising, maybe revising it from time to time, or maybe depending on the nature of the project, those same stakeholders who sat down to agree on it can say that, well, though everything should be considered equally important. That is the drawback of the checklist model. It oversimplifies the screening process for projects. Yes. Another typical example. Look, when an organization is recruiting staff, and they say every staff must have a minimum qualification of this, and then it means everybody is considered. But you come in and then you interact with them, you realize that yes, though this guy has got a first class, but he cannot do the job. Meanwhile, you consider that this particular criteria will be the prime criteria upon which you will judge the screening, the selection of candidates. So you see that even during that interview process, the panel will say that no. Though we consider that degree is the prime criteria, first class is the topmost, but this guy's first class, it is what? Advantages, okay.
We have, let's say, administration background.
Criteria. So she's saying that maybe some other inherent criteria can be tied to something like this financial thing we're talking about. Something else may be tied to it. But when that happens, don't you think it rather raises the question of the equality of the selection criteria that we mentioned? So that is a problem with the checklist model. That's a lot. It oversimplifies it and can make it very difficult to. Yes. Then the next one, simplified scoring model. So building on the checklist model, the simplified scoring model add an important layer of sophistication by introducing weights and numerical scores. So first, we were not even attaching scores. We were just doing what? Checking. So you have this particular criteria is there, we tick and said, okay, then we can pick this project. Now we're saying that for each checklist, we will attach a score. If it is financial, we'll attach a score. If it is technical, we'll attach a score. So depending on maybe some kind of importance. Yes, that is why we will attach weights. So you score and then you attach weights to it. Then we would end up trying to find the product of the weight and the score. And then when we sum it up, we will now say that it is better, this project is better for us as an organization than this. Okay. Any advantage of this? So that one too, we have to agree on a criteria. The stakeholders will have to agree on a criteria. They will have to agree on the weights, right? And the product and summation of that will give the score. So let's see something like this. A quick example, maybe criterion A. There's a weight of 0.4, 0.4, and a score. Yes. So and then criteria B, there's a weight of 0.6, score of this. So what we are saying is that when the scores are given, for each item will have a weight. So the weight would be the level of importance the project team attaches to either finance, they attach to either technical feasibility, they attach to risk. And then if everybody now scores and multiplies and add up, then we'll see how will you determine appropriate weights for the individual items that we may consider in project screen? How do you determine the weights? Yeah, that particular criteria has on that particular project. And then we keep using finance as an example. Sometimes the issue, it can be in percentage or maybe decimal points, almost the same. Sometimes financial feasibility may not be the issue. They'll say, I ask for finance, there's no problem there. Don't even go there. Yes. Sometimes technical, sometimes the risk exposure, the legal exposure too. Yes. Implementing the project, because in an attempt to implement the project, the whole organization can crash. Okay, yeah. So for risk, it means for riskier investments or more riskier investments, more weight will be attached to the risk aspects. For assuming the organization is financially cash trapped, then more importance will be attached to what? Finance. Yes. It depends on the nature of the project. Then we also have the analytic hierarchy process, which is a 4-step process. So here, basically what we'll do would be this one presents a more sophisticated approach. So we'll construct a hierarchy of criteria and sub-criteria. Similarly, we'll also allocate weights, assign numerical values to evaluation dimensions, and determine scores by something very, very similar. Works like this. Typical example. So depending on how the project aligns with the goal of the organization, they give it a higher rate, say maybe 100% alignment. If it's misalignment, maybe lower. Then finance may take some 0.5, strategy would also take some point, information technology would also take some point. But it doesn't end there. And that's the difference with the other one, with the previous one was one. The scoring. Yeah, the scoring model. So you see that once in the scoring, if we identify finance, we allocate a weight and then the panel scores and then we multiply. This one, broadly, finance is allocated, yes. And then finance will have subcomponents. It will also have subcomponents. So even under finance, we can also have different points for short term and different points for long term. And under finance, we can determine by multiplying a score for long term and its weight, a score for short term and its weight, and then assessing only and summing and assess only finance. And then after that, when we have done that for finance, strategy, information technology and its subcomponents and goal, then we sum everything up. This is more sophisticated than yes. So even that one, it depends. Some projects may require just short-term financing because maybe the delivery is just in some months, couple of months. Others may require a long-term financing. There are more complex models. Yes. It can also be deceptive. Okay, explain. That's a limitation. How?
Because depending on the way that you assign either short term or long term subsidy for financing, it may turn out to be seeing the best of this month and no other project is short term project.
Okay.
Depending on the way that
okay. Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. That can be a limitation. Even apart from the one other limitation would be if we are going to, how do we factor risk in this? Maybe to factor risk, we may also have to look at the effect of risk, maybe short term. Okay. So an organization can customize depending on the criteria they want to use, and then come up with the subcomponents for each. More complex models. Financial, this is a purely finance model, where the focus here with the profile model, yes, the focus here is on what? Risk and return. They are just interested in risk and return. Yeah. And they use what they call the efficient frontier. So if you look at, say, for instance, here, X3, it basically will tell us that considering this is the maximum level of risk that we can attain. So if a project is going to be situated somewhere, maybe here, X2, it means that the project goes with a high level of what? Risk. And so the organization would have had maybe a financial expert who would model the risk and return and plot it on a graph. So as professionals, the financial expert will come and present this graph to you and tell you how each project scales up in terms of what? Risk and what? And return. And based on that, you can choose. If you were a project manager and you are presented with such a scenario, what kind of project will you choose? The one with higher risk, lower return. Here we have high return, or maybe some medium kind of risks. But there's also a possibility that, look at X6. X6 has a maximum risk, and the returns will also be. What kind of project will you? The finance people will tell you, sometimes you may have to, if you are a risk lover, what will you do? You take the highest risk. Yeah. So how many models are we looking at? This profile model, AHP model, scoring model, and the check. The most simplest model is the checklist model. But there are other financial models which we may have looked at maybe in finance lectures in the past. The payback period, very simple and straightforward approach. Basically, what you would consider would be how long is it going to recoup our investments? There's also the present value method, then the discounted payback period method. Yes. And the internal rate of return method. These are purely financial models. For the purpose of this lecture, we are not going to be looking at how we can calculate that. But my focus is on the first one. At least, you should be able to have, if you are given some financial figures, and later on at the end of the lecture, I'll share a case study with you, and we'll look at it. If you are presented with some amount of investment and possibly cash flows, can you just look at it and determine whether this project is feasible or not? At least that one is very easy. You don't have to do any kind of complex calculations to come up with that. Then also, the discounted payback period and the net present value. These ones usually talk about if you were to have, for instance, if you are taking a loan of say 30,000 and you are going to pay it let's take 5 years. You are likely to end up paying, considering the interest rates, you are likely to end up paying 60,000. So you ask yourself, what is the value of 60 today? What's the present value? So then it will help you. What's the present value? Is it better to invest the 30,000 and pay 60,000 in 5 years? Or it is just okay to just squeeze yourself and use other alternative approaches? Okay. Any question? So in the example, yeah, so in the exam, no, after the case, when we look at the case study, at least to give you an idea, I honestly don't like teaching and mentioning exam because I become exam hopeful. No, but payback is what we are going to look at. And when we look at the case, the scenario case, you will understand what I would want us to be concentrating on. Yes. Now I want us to look at project portfolio management. Project portfolio management. What's a portfolio? So, can you say it again? Organization. Okay. So we are talking about multiple projects that an organization, yes. And we earlier mentioned that an organization may not just be implementing one project. They may be implementing multiple projects. So there should be a systematic process of selecting, supporting, and managing the firm's collection of what? Different kinds of projects. And different initiatives will require critical decision making. It will involve the issue of prioritizing, because we keep saying that if there are some projects, the moment you take them, the impact it is going to have on your labor, employee capacity, your finances, it can take a toll and then derail it. So selecting a portfolio of projects also it has a process. And before we look at the process, I want us to look at developing a proactive portfolio. Yeah. And to do that, we'll consider what we refer to as a project portfolio matrix. And quite some interesting terms we may have heard of in the past. The project portfolio matrix basically classifies projects into 4 types according to commercial potential and technical feasibility. I'm not sure if you have heard of this bread and butter, pearls, oysters, and white elephant. The last one is one I am sure that almost all of us will have heard about a project being a white elephant. And to do that, to explain them, we'll use a basic table to do that. To explain, let me. Yes. We would use this basic table. Now, this part of the table basically tells us the probability of the tendency of the project succeeding, whilst this part tells us the net present value. Value terms against what? Success. Yeah. And this arrow comes from this side. When we are moving from here to that side, we are going higher. And then this side is going lower. So we look at each of them. The first one, usually, projects that we refer to as white elephants. The commercial potential are usually very low, whilst the probability of success is also it's not high. It's also low. And we say this project is a white elephant. If you look at the building at the back here, the part of it collapsed. If you look at the commercial potential, look, the amount of money they sunk into it, but commercially, in terms of using it and getting value for money out of it, is completely gone. Because even the remainder of the building is yet to be, the one standing, they are yet to pull it down. So you can imagine the kind of cost that was sunk into this particular project. So commercial potential is almost zero with all the millions of Ghana cedis that was pumped into it. In terms of success, is it successful? The project was almost completed. But in terms of finance, in terms of all project matrices, it is a runaway. Everything is a runaway. Delivery, the time has passed. Costs, they have overspent. Everything they have outrun it. And no show, and the project has become what? A white elephant. So normally in English parlance, when they say white elephant, yeah, they may say maybe it's a useless project. But in project management parlance, we say that white elephant projects are projects with low probability of success and with very low commercial potential. So we will not look at it. So we will not wait until the project is implemented and become unsuccessful. And then we'll say that the project is a white elephant. Even as part of our portfolio management, we'll say that, look, the nature of this project, commercial viability is very, very low. Probability of success is very low. So if we embark on this project, it is going to be a drain on other projects that the organization is already managing. The portfolio will be what? Severely affected because of what? This white elephant. Then we have the bread and butter. For the bread and butter, commercial viability is what? Low. But probability of success is high. Can someone give us a practical example of this? Value, low. Success, high. Bread and butter project. You just want to do it, and they say that you have also done something, but in actual fact, it is not adding any returns to the organization. You think of a project in your organization which has been implemented. Yes, and they will say, oh, we have saved costs. We have done this, but you have saved costs. But no one is interested in what? In the product or the service. But you have been able to what? To deliver.
For example,
So,
the construction of whole airport.
okay. The whole airport, they have delivered, right? Yes. Commercial viability. No plane, virtually no plane lands there. Yes. So bread and butter. The politicians do this for us a lot. You say you want it, but they know that it won't serve your interest. There's no value in it. But if the electors would take it and vote for us, let's do it for them.
Sometimes even this Tamale airport, when you are from you land at the airport there, you feel like it's more like a white elephant. So always at the
He says it looks like, but it's not a white elephant. Because at least in a day, you will have 4 or so flights.
international flight.
No, international. No, even local. Yeah, but you would also get private jet. You also get private jets landing. Okay, so in terms of the international need, so that brings in another aspect we have to consider. Depending on the perspective, a project which is white elephant to some stakeholders, it may not be a white elephant, because in the short term, the returns may not be there, but in the long term, it may not be what? A white elephant. So as long as the project is delivered, in the short term, no commercial viability. So it is not, maybe we'll say it's a small elephant as at that stage. But as time, in the long term, yeah, maybe the vicinity, the environment may grow to the extent that there may be reliability and patronage of this particular project. Then it can move into either maybe which one? The whole airport, yes. But now it is a white elephant, right? It could. Yes.
For instance, the Tamale airport. So I've had an opportunity to have a conversation with one of the
Okay.
international pilots.
Okay.
So he told me that Tamale airport from international air flight is very close to land. It's better to land in Tamale rather than in Accra.
In Accra.
But then the influence up there is making the international flag rather land there.
Yes.
Because that if they choose to land there, they will save more fuel than
Then going to Accra. Yes. Yes.
So, like you actually mentioned, maybe time to come, it will either be like, for example,
Yes, so it also depends on the infrastructure.
yes.
So you see, a lot of central government services are based in Accra. So maybe in terms of if we develop to some extent.
The best of Ghana will in the West Africa.
I see. Yeah, they took their.
That it is where any flight can land. For Accra, that it's not all flights that.
Yes, they have been. All right, so let's move on. Yeah, abandoned government projects. Yes.
State housing projects.
Yeah, like the state housing projects. So it's almost completed. So if you look at the table we're looking at, the matrix we're looking at, it is probability of success, completion there is almost done, almost habitable. But commercial viability, zero. It's a white elephant. Okay. Are the slides moving? Can someone confirm? Okay. Okay. All right, so let's look at the rest. Where is my diagram? Yes. Let's look at oysters and see if we can find practical examples of oysters. Commercial viability high. Probability of success low. Oyster projects. Any practical example of an oyster project? Eastern Corridor. How?
The body is high, but the completion is
the completion is, but I understand it's completed.
But
West. That's the reason why most of the drivers are not here. Yes. Even most of the drivers mentioned that it's even shorter if the mass move.
or if you get that place,
there's a lot of traffic there. So
Okay.
most drivers
Don't want to use it. Okay. Any other example of an oyster project? High commercial viability, but success low. Is it because we are in the political scene? Have you realized that our examples are? Yes, they are hitting us from every. Yeah. We don't know. All right, then the last one. The last one I refer to as strategic gems. That's a gem. That one, commercial viability, very high. And then success high. Usually, Well, I'm back to the political. In political cycles, they will refer to this as the flagship projects. Because whatever they have done, whatever project they have done, which can be referred to as white elephants, they will not talk about it. So even in the organizational cycles, organizations tend to, on their websites or for publicity purposes, concentrate on the pearls, because that is the most, yes, the flagship. For NDC. Okay, so commercial viability. So I like what we are saying, but I have an issue. You see, if you look at the pre-senior high school, this is a public good. The government rendering a public good. It is not it's not a for-profit project. So let's concentrate on for-profit projects. It's a social intervention, which are commercial projects which are they were delivered right on time, and the returns on that investment is also very high. It's not this guy. Yes. In organizational context, can we get something in the organizational context? So I always like to use a local example from the School of Business. Yeah? The way we set our projects, success, though we have not graduated in it yet, but in terms of growth in numbers, we would say, even the university says it, the School of Business program has been highly successful. Commercial viability, we are now plugging a lot of financial gaps in the university's finances because of the uptake of this. So it becomes a gem, a strategic flagship for now they are bringing on board another program, a law program. Yeah, and the university, they have invested so much into that. Getting a consultant for a very long time to go through the processes of accreditation, a facility, and all that. Now, uptake is most likely that when the program starts, the patronage will be very high. That's success. That's success. The fee income, the IGF it will bring to the university will be very high. So over time, it may also become a pair project for the university. Yes. And if you look at also in the NGO cycles, usually every NGO would have one flagship program that has been very successful, because you see, usually in the NGO cycles, they would not just be concentrating on one particular project. They may have different kinds of funders, but one particular project will be so successful. Anytime they are talking about either the girl child education or whatever social intervention, it is that project that they will refer to indicate how successful. Yeah, when you go to their website, that is what you are going to see. That will be a typical example of a Pearl project. How is it possible for, in the short term, for a Pearl project to become a white elephant? Yeah. So I'm looking at the two extremes. Pearl, highly delivery, successful, commercial viability, very high. And then at the extreme lowest end, success, very low, commercial viability, very low. Is it possible that a project in the short term, which has been very successful, can turn into a white elephant? That is the issue. That is the key word, sustainability. Then it will mean that the project will not have been what? So when projects are not sustainable, they can turn from being pearls in the short term into white elephants in the long term. But is it also possible the other way around? We looked at the issue of some projects currently being white elephants. And so maybe if some investments are made into some critical areas, it can push the project as part of the organization or the country's portfolio of projects. It can push it to become either an oyster or a pearl in the policy. Depends on the policy. So that is why if you see in the national context, they would always say we must have a national development plan, so that projects will not always become white elephants because of what? Change in governance.
beside the chief ambulance.
I say, okay, yes. Superb, yes. Yeah, it was also very high. Yes. Yes. Look at Metro Mass. Look at Metro Mass. First time. Metro Mass. Delivery. Everybody was excited. Anywhere.
The impact was
yes, but with time. Go to Metro Mass and say you want to use it. It became a white elephant. If you go there, look, I once yes, maintenance. Very clear example of a pearl turning into what? The maintenance culture. So because of the maintenance culture, that project became unsustainable. Well, recently they say they are introducing electric buses and whatnot to try and see if they can turn it back to.
And is a social, but then the stadium. But then because of the maintenance culture,
yeah. So in a nutshell, we can say that depending on how long a project lifespan may be, the project can hop around this 4. Yes, there can always be a turnaround. Depends on how long. And yeah, financial viability, because if you don't have money to push other sectors, it will continue to stay as this one. I have begged this building because we are struggling where to, and I have begged meetings to say that please, if you are going to demolish it, just cut it off to 2 floors and we'll manage. And I was told that if I look at the simulation, the way the building is dangling, if weight is put on it, no one should be allowed to sit in it. So it cannot hop from being a white elephant into any other. It's just, yeah, stays as a white.
I also say that depending on the viability of the project, that can also lead to either shifting from the right elephant to the left side. For example, it's no more viable for anybody to like the importance that the physical strength of that. Nobody will be allowed to.
Yes.
Never from anybody jump to.
Never. Okay. Now let me show the case study. Yeah, so let's look at this. Consists of several projects, about 4 projects. Can you see? Can you all see? I should change it to Silicon Valley Tech Pro Solutions Portfolio Management Challenge. Background: Tech Pro Solutions is a mid-sized technology company that develops software solutions for healthcare providers. The company currently has 12 potential projects under consideration, but limited resources to execute them. The CEO has tasked you as the portfolio manager to evaluate and select the optimal mix of projects available. So, and these are the available projects. Project Alpha is going to consider electronic health record system upgrade. Initial investment, $2 million. Expected annual return, $600,000. Technical feasibility, high. Market risk, low. Development time, 18 months. Then we have Project Beta, AI-powered diagnostic tool. Initial investment, 3.5. Expected annual return, 1.2 million. Technical feasibility, mid. Market risk, high. Development time, 24 months. Project Gamma, patient portal mobile app. Initial investment, $800,000. Expected annual return, $300,000. Technical feasibility, high. Market risk, low. Development time, 8 months. Then the last one, Project Delta. Blockchain medical record security. Initial investment, $4 million. Expected annual return, 1.5. Technical feasibility, low. Market risk, high. Development time, 36 months. And we are presented with some constraints. Total budget is 5 million. So it means that the mix of projects we have should consider the technical team capacity can handle maximum 3 concurrent projects. Maximum acceptable payback period is 3 years. Questions. Portfolio classification. Classify each project using the portfolio matrix: bread and butter, pearls, oysters, and white elephants, and justify your classification. Then we have financial analysis. Calculate the payback period for each project. Calculate the payback period for each project. Which project meets the company's payback period requirement? And remember, the payback period is what? Maximum is 3 years. How will you rank the project based on financial metrics? 3, portfolio selection. Which project will you recommend for implementation and why? How does your selection address resource constraints, risk balance, strategic alignment, and technical feasibility? 4, implementation challenges. Identify potential problems in implementing your recommended portfolio and suggest specific solution. And when we say recommend, identify potential problems in implementing your recommended portfolio, it means we are not looking at one project. We are looking at a combination of projects that you could select. That will meet the criteria we set out. Yes. Screening process. Design a screening model for tech pro solutions that includes criteria selection, weighing scheme, scoring methodology, and maybe some decision threshold. Then the last one, portfolio review. Develop a monitoring and review framework that includes key performance indicators, review frequency. So this one is a bit subjective for the team to look at. Yeah? Yes. So how will you this scenario? So you guys are 9, right? So I think this project, next week we are not meeting because of the elections. Next Saturday will be elections. So we are not meeting. So I'm thinking that we can use this case study as some kind of a group project. Maybe 2 groups. So that for so 2 groups. I'm coming. No, you have to discuss now. So no. Yes. We'll look at it, but yes. No, but it's easy to calculate. So it's easy to calculate. So what you basically do is, let's pick, say, project A, project Alpha. Initial investment is 2 million. So 2 with 6 zeros. And then expected annual return is 6. So what will be the payback period? I never explained it, how to calculate payback period when I never did, and it was intentional. What will be the payback period? Because I assume that at the graduate level, you should remember. For calculator, what will be the payback period? Okay, you should calculate it. How long will it take for us to recoup our investment of 2 million if we are this one there? I won't teach it. 2,000.
$2 divided by 600,000.
Okay, so how long will that be? So when you do that, the answer you get is in what? Is it in cities? Is it in years? Yeah, so it's a payback, so it's in years. It's always attached to years. So assuming you get 0.5, that's 6 months. Half a year. So it means we have to calculate the payback period for each project. You see? Are you listening? But I don't have to. It's an assignment. Okay, that's fine. It's the 3 3, so 3.3. Okay. So you have to do that. So 3 years. But when the company is what? 3 years. So it
But there's something on top of it.
there's something on top of it, but you are not done with the rest.
Better.
It might be better. So you have to do it for each project. Are you getting it? Before you can determine that, okay, considering the payback period. So in the first part, what you have to do is you have to draw the diagram, the table, and plot the projects. There are 4 projects in them, and see which ones are pearls, which ones are bread and butter. And then you also do the payback period. So when you do that, you will be able to, you would use both the payback period and the pearls to see which ones will you combine. So even depending on the payback period, will you, as a project manager, go and pick a project which is possibly a white elephant? So you have to determine. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. After calculating the payback period, you are able to come up with, say, 1, 2, 3 projects. But you also have to look at the outlay, the cash outlay of the project, and not necessarily the payback period. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. They say total available budget is 5 million. So you cannot total available budget. The company, they have got 5 million. So if they have 5 million, then it means that if you go and pick project 4, which is 4 million, and you go and pick project 2, which is 3.5 million, it cannot form your project portfolio.
More than that. So from the look of your eyes, you are able to discount some projects. Say no.
Well, but for this, yeah, you can. So as part of project assessment, you are a project manager or you are part of a panel. You just look at the presentation and you say that, no, this project is not viable. For the sake of this assignment, you would have to document it. You would have to document and explain why this and this cannot be part of the project portfolio because it is above what? The budget. Oh, yes, we said that. We said that. And then we also have to plot the projects in the matrix to know which ones are white elephants. And we are saying that if you are not careful, you are likely to pick a white elephant and go and combine it with maybe an oyster. And the white elephant may have a high initial investment, which may affect the possible or the potential oyster you are talking. So you have to now sit down and determine how you are going to mix the projects to form a project portfolio. So that this one will be the 40% for the assessment. Yes. Yeah. The number, yeah, so you are 9, so 4 and 5. So you form your groups. Last year, I will check again, but I'm not sure if they did a sit down exam.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, please, I'm also here.
Oh, yes. So when you are 9, I'm not talking about those, I'm talking about the class size.
The class size, okay, that's
You are 9 all. So it means one group will be 4,
all right.
group will be 5. You are included.
All right.
Okay. So you reach out to them
Thank
and then join a group and then you do it. And that will form part of the assessment for you. And I'm also just stressing that I will confirm again. Last year, I'm not sure. I don't know if you remember whether they did a sit-down exam or the exam was also project like this. Yes. Yes. It was a project. It was a project. So when we are done, we'll come up with another scenario-based one, and then you do it. But I think that one was rather individual. Was it individual or 2-2? Something like that. 2-2. They were 2-2. So that you do that one for them. Because this is a practice-based thing. I don't think coming down to answer questions, what is project portfolio? And then you write, no. You use this to demonstrate what project portfolio is. And that way, it is easier to assess. It's easier to practicalize these things. When you are also going to teach and you use scenarios like this, it will be easier for people to understand. Yes, in a question. So, I should share it now. Yes, I will share it. I'll just. Oh yes, honestly, it's a problem. Yes. So let me. Yes. We share it. Hello, yes. Hello. You're on my food. Down.